some envious men. He often used this to his advantage. When you had to kill or deceive, you used whatever tools you had, as effectively as possible. His government had taught him that too. Though he still technically labored for the United States, he also worked for himself. His official pension plan fell far short of giving him the quality retirement he felt he deserved, after so many years of risking his life for the red, white, and blue. For him, though, it had been mostly red. On the third afternoon after his enlightening visit to the capital, Seagraves subtly modified his features and put on several layers of clothing. When it grew dark, he drove a van up into the expensive fringes of Northwest D.C., where the embassies and private mansions all had paranoid guards patrolling their compounds. He parked in a small courtyard behind a building across the street from a very exclusive club housed in an imposing brick Georgian that catered to wealthy and politically obsessed persons, of whom Washington had more than any city on earth. These folks loved to gather over passable food and average wine, and talk polls, policies, and patronage to their heart's content. Seagraves wore a blue jumper suit with "Service" stenciled on the back. The key he'd made earlier fit the simple lock of the vacant building that was awaiting extensive renovation. His toolbox in hand, he took the steps 2 at a time until he reached the top floor and entered a room facing the street. He flashed a penlight around the empty space, noting the single window. He'd left it unlocked and well-oiled on an earlier visit. He opened his toolbox and quickly assembled his sniper rifle. Next, he attached the suppressor can to the muzzle, chambered a single round. He was nothing if not confident, crept forward and drew up the window a bare 2 inches, just enough to allow the can to fit in the opening. He checked his watch and looked up and down the street from his lofty perch without much worry of being spotted, since the building he was in was completely dark. In addition, his rifle had no optics signature and sported camouflage technology, meaning it changed color to match its background. Oh, what the human race had learned from the humble moth. When the limo and lead security car pulled up to the club, he drew his bead on the head of one of the men who got out of the stretch. But he didn't fire. It wasn't time yet. The club member walked inside, followed by his security men sporting ear fobs and thick necks sticking out of starched collars. He watched the stretch and the security car pull off. Seagraves checked his watch again. 2 hours to go. He continued to scan the street below as town cars and cabs dropped off serious-faced women, outfitted not in carats of De Beers and yards of Versace, but in smart off-the-rack business suits and tasteful costume jewelry, with their social and political antennae set on high. The serious-faced men accompanying them were hunkered down in pinstripes, bland ties, and what seemed to be bad attitudes. It won't get any better, gents. Trust me. 120 minutes dragged by, and his gaze had never once left the club's brick facade. Through the large front windows he could see the efficient swirl of folks who cradled their drinks and murmured in low, conspiratorial tones. Okay, it was time for business. He gave the street another quick scan. Not a soul was looking his way. Over his career, he'd found they never were. Seagraves waited patiently until the target walked through his crosshairs for the last time. Then his gloved finger edged to the trigger. He didn't particularly like firing through a window pane, though it wouldn't interfere with the flight of the ordnance he was using. Thwap! This was followed instantly by a tinkle of glass and the heavy thud of a pudgy dead man hitting a highly polished oak floor. The Honorable Robert Bradley had felt no pain at all with the impact. The bullet had killed his brain before it could tell his mouth to start screaming. Not a bad way to go, actually. Seagraves calmly laid down the rifle and peeled off his jumpsuit, exposing the D.C. police uniform underneath. He put on a matching hat he'd brought with him and marched down the stairs to the rear door. When he exited the building, he could hear the screams from across the street. Only 19 seconds had passed since the shot. He knew because he'd counted the ticks off in his head. He now moved rapidly down the street, as he continued to time the action in his head. The next moment he heard the powerful whine of the car engine as the carefully choreographed scene was played out. Now he began to run all out, pulling his pistol as he did so. He had 5 seconds to get there. He turned the corner in time to almost be hit by the sedan as it raced by him. At the last instant, he leaped to the side, rolled, and came up in the middle of the road.